Hey, hey.
How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. How you doing?
I'm all right. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
See, I'll make you a co-host. Pop your presentation. Let's just double check, make sure that all that's good to go. Yay! Looks great.
Say, how we looking?
Yep.
Awesome. And it should just click through pretty easy.
Sweet. And like I said, I'll introduce you and do some questions and kind of guide the conversation in some ways too. But it's pretty much yours to go.
Okay.
I think I told you last time we had a. I don't know if I told you this or not. Did I tell you that we had somebody that uh, what's the word? Pirated the session. Did I tell you that story?
No.
Oh yeah, we had somebody that was a troll and jumped in there, and it was bad. If we get to that point, if there, I don't think it's going to happen again. I think it was random, but if it happens again, I know how to get around that, and we'll just do it that way. But
All right. Works
we'll
for me.
give we'll give everybody a few more seconds here to get in, and then we'll jump in. They'll be adding in all the way through the session.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to pull Steve Troll in. He is the VP of Sales for Demolin.
Okay.
He's on here, and let him meet you too before we get rolling. Hey, Steve.
There you go.
You there, Steve?
I'm here, David. How are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Michael?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, man. Thanks
I
for
just-
doing this.
I just
Oh.
let you in the room because I knew you'd probably want to say hi to him before we got rolling.
I do. I most definitely do. How's your last couple of months been?
Crazy.
Yeah,
It
aren't we all?
just seems to keep getting crazier.
I know. Well, we should have some answers, in the next few weeks, I think,
Yeah,
about how things are going to look.
I hope so.
I was on that Zoom conference with CBDNA last week. David, you were on there. There were
Yeah.
1,300 people there.
Yeah.
And interestingly, everybody has worked hard to put together several different options, but
Yeah.
so far no administrators have said that'll be great. That looks like that'll work.
Yeah.
So everybody's in a holding pattern, but that's okay.
Yep.
Got a little time yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I
We got-
hope they just make a decision here pretty soon.
I think we got like maybe another week or so before we're really in crunch time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to open this room and hope that I think I'm going to do one at a time, just so we don't run into what we ran into last week.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hey, Jeremy, how are you? Hey, Mike, minimize your, let's take your presentation off the screen for just a second so I can see people as they come in the room.
Okay.
That'd be good. Hey guys, and as you come into the room, if you just, everybody go to camera, that'd be great, just so we can see who we all got here. That'd be great. Hey Doug, how are you? There's Doug.
Yeah, did you get him? There you go.
Yeah, he's in here.
Oh, it looks fancy.
Yeah, he's got that background going. There's Brittany Froge. Hey, Brian.
Hmm.
Make sure we don't have anybody else. I think we are good
I think
to
so.
go. All right, everybody, we're going to get started. And as we go, we'll be adding people in to the room. But I wanted to, first of all, say thank you to Steve Troll and Doug Neal. They're both in the room from DeMolin Brothers that made this possible. And I'm going to turn it over to Steve just a few moments. I know he wanted to pass on some words of welcome to you. So Steve, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, David. And thanks to all of you. I really appreciate you participating and getting information from these Zoom conferences. It's been a wonderful experience from the very first one. And today, Michael's really going to give us some very valuable information that I think will help everybody. So we're behind you, and we know that there's still a lot of decisions to be made and a lot of things still up in the air, but the fact that you're active and that you're making a plan is what's most important right now. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate you, all of you.
And Doug's the regional rep for DeMolin in the state of Kentucky and around that area. And I know this is a Kentucky guy. So Doug, you want to offer any words of welcome to anybody? I think you about to be muted, Doug. Oh, there we go. No.
Turn your sound up on your desktop, on your laptop.
Try that, Doug. All right, well, technical difficulties. We'll come back to Doug here in a few moments. I do want to introduce our guest speaker today. This is Michael Stone. Michael's the director of bands at Bourbon County High School, and just a phenomenal band director, phenomenal band program. And I wanted Michael to speak today on some of the financial challenges. He runs a very, very strong band program just outside Lexington, Kentucky, but not the size of band program that you would probably think with the national notoriety that they've got, and how he does it, and the groups of kids and the age groups of kids that he has is pretty astounding. And to be a national champion at the Bands of America Class A championship year after year is just phenomenal. So please welcome Michael Stone. And Michael, whenever you're ready to share your screen, we'll go from there.
Awesome. Let me get that pulled up. And all right, how's it look on your end?
Yes, looks great.
All right, awesome. Well, first, I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for coming today. I want to start out by just saying that
we're excited to have you with us today. What we're going to do is share with you
I think somebody
a word.
doesn't have their stuff muted. There we go.
There we go.
I just want to start out by saying I know that I don't have all of the answers. I'm a relatively young band director, and so there's still a lot that I'm figuring out. But I think that there are some things that maybe we do in our program that I can share with you that can hopefully help you with your program, or you can modify those in some way. So I have a slideshow that we're going to go through this, but I don't want it to just be, sit and get. So if you have a question, please ask. Or if there's a discussion point, please don't hesitate so that we can have that discussion. I think Mr. Starnes is going to help us mediate through that a little bit. So I'll go ahead and get started. And the first thing I wanted to do was just tell you guys about me. So I'm 28 years old. I have 6 years of teaching experience, all in rural areas. I graduated from Eastern Kentucky University with my bachelor's and my master's degree, both in music education. I'm a trumpet player. I marched with the Glassman Drum and Bugle Corps their next to last season in 2011. And I do a lot of visual and music design stuff as well. Just specifically within our band program, I write all of our, or arrange all of our music and write all of our drill. And I write drill for a few other bands here in Kentucky and outside of Kentucky. I've been in Bourbon County now for 6 years, about, and almost all of my teaching career. And I was at Harrison County before then. It's weird to say I was here for 6 years because I student taught, and then I started at Harrison County, and then I came back to Bourbon County. And so I've always kind of been around the Bourbon County band program, even before I was one of the band directors. And before I was the head director, I was the assistant director for 2 years. So I've become very familiar with our program, even though I've only been the head director for a couple of years here. And then, of course, I wanted to tell you about our school. Our school is made up of a very interesting population. So we have about 82.8% white non-Hispanic students. Our school has about 700 to 800 students in it every year. These numbers that are on here are based off of the 2018-19 school year. And so we have the next largest population that we have are Hispanic and Latino students. And I'll tell you, most of my band is made up of those Hispanic and Latino students. We have a very mixed pot of people in band, but honestly, it's mostly Hispanic and Latino students. We have 26 African-American students, which make up about 3.4% of the population, and then 2.7% that are of some other nationality or race. We're also in a pretty low income area of Kentucky. A lot of our students deal with drug issues at home or in their part of the community. So we have about 60% of our students that face some sort of economical disadvantage. And the other 40% are the ones that can do anything that you ask them to do. That 60%, though, is an overwhelming majority a lot of the time. And so funding band things presents a challenge every so often. And then our school is also working on our graduation rate. Right now, we're at 89.6% of students graduating. And so when I look at that, I just say 1 in every 10 kids is not going to graduate high school from Bourbon County. And that is completely disheartening. So we're on the mend to try to get those things corrected. It's taken some administration changes, and it's taking some just creative thinking on the part of the leaders in our building and our school system. But we are trying to get that up to a more respectful number, to say the least. And then last but not least, I wanted just to tell you about our band. So this is all of our, our brand for our band. We go by the mantra, just no regrets. It seems really simple, but every season we always try, no matter what, we always try to perform and put a show out there, put a product out there that is going to be enjoyable by the crowd, that is going to be fun for the kids, and that is, at the end of the day, going to teach them something. The no regrets part of that is that we just try to max out everything that we do so that at the end of the season, we can look back and say that we did everything that we can, and there's nothing that we would go back and change. So in the past 4 or 5 years, our band has grown exponentially. When I first arrived in Bourbon County, we had 80 students in the marching band. And our marching band, we use grades 7 through 12 in our marching band. And so we had, in 2015, we had 80 members in the marching band. The year after that, in 2016, we jumped up to right over 100. I think we had 107 by the end of the season. And then we've kept growing every year. Last year was the largest band that we've ever had, and we had 130 students in the band. Excuse me. This year, looking at numbers and who I am almost positive that is going to be in band, we have 117 in the band this year. So we're staying around that 115 to 130 range. The band has been a 16-time state finalist here in Kentucky. We've won the state championship 7 times. We won our first one in 2008, and it's basically been like win 2, lose 2 every year since then. There was one point where we won 3, and that was like the planet split open. It was a giant deal here in Bourbon County. And we've also won the Grand National Class A Championship 5 times. And that's pretty much our band. Like I said, we have a very mixed membership of our band. Obviously, we have a mixed ability level, and based off of the numbers that I presented at the beginning, you can see that the economical here within the band as well. So before I move on, does anyone have any questions or anything?
I think we're good, Michael. One of the things that maybe that you might want to mention to them is how you guys financially, particularly in the time that we're in right now, how do you gauge growth? I mean, do you allow it just to grow if it's going to grow, or is it a thing where like a per student amount that you're having to deal with based on the vast socioeconomic range that you have, and it's a Grand Nationals year for you guys. So how do you gauge that when you see the numbers start to climb, especially in a climate that we're in right now where there's been no fundraising the last 2 or 3 months?
Right. That's a great question. Great question. So we started looking at that back in February, because we really start recruiting pretty hard in January and February. And everyone here in Kentucky that I talk to, and some people nationally, they think I'm crazy because we have so many daggone 7th graders that march in our band. In 2018, I had 32 7th graders on the field out of 120 kids. And it was very difficult to deal with. And so last year, we kind of took a better look at that, and we held back on recruiting a little bit. And, honestly, despite that, we grew in number. This year, especially once we started hearing word about COVID-19, and we started to see how it was affecting different things around the world, we really took a look at things, and we said we really need to hold off on trying to get a ton of kids in the band this year. I used to say growing up that the biggest band I ever wanted was 120, and I had that the first year I was a head director. So for me, I've gotten everything that I wanted out of that. And so now when I'm looking at it for the kids, I'm looking at it as who can make this happen? Who can find the right resources to be able to pay band fees? And I grew up in a single parent home. I grew up in Harrison County, which is just about 11 minutes north of Bourbon County. And pretty much we have the identical community. And so my mom really struggled. Our band fees when I was growing up at their highest were $200. Our band fees in Bourbon County are $400. So I never want to turn away a kid because they can't pay for band fees. We have scholarships that are available. We have ways that students can offset fees or come up with payment plans for their fees as well, just so that everybody who wants to is able to participate. This year, to really answer your question, I usually go into a little bit of overdrive around the end of March, beginning of April, to really get students interested in band, especially those 6th graders, because they're going to be 7th graders, because in our community, we have a very strong FFA program. We have a very strong cross country and track program, and we have a pretty strong soccer team as well. And so with that in mind, we know that once our kids start to get a little bit bigger, the athletics and other activities try to get a hold of them because they're the good kids and everybody wants the good kids. So in a small school, there are less good kids to go around. And so this year, I really held back with that. And I didn't try to get every single kid possible in band this year, in marching band this year. One, because like all the rest of you all, I'm sure, I have no idea if it's going to happen. And two, I know that financially we are going to really struggle this season to get it off the ground and keep it running all the way through Grand Nationals for our kids. And so I don't want to get, like you said, more involved when we're not going to have the funds to do it because we've lost so much fundraising, so many fundraising opportunities. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit later in the presentation, but that is kind of how we're dealing with things moving forward for this year. Did that really answer it, or did I just talk around it?
No, absolutely, it did. And I think it's the thing that's amazing to me is, you know, I've watched the Bourbon County Band for years, and the quality is always there. The background of what you're telling us today, it's one of those things where everybody thinks that the most successful bands have all the resources and the best kids and all those kinds of things. And it's, I think when I talked to you first about this presentation, and you told me the number of middle school kids that you had, 7th, 8th graders, particularly in the band program, it just blew me away because, and probably one thing that led to me wanting you to do this presentation, because you don't have to have it all, obviously, to do great things with it. I certainly think you're offering that. So I'll let you continue, but really, really good points.
Well, thank you. And I think you're right. Everybody probably knows the name Eric Hale. He was the band director here at Bourbon County before I was for 14 or 15 years. He was my band director at Harrison County from the time I was in 5th grade through 7th grade. And one thing that I learned from him, I also student taught with him. And, you know, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't know, we had a band at Harrison County very similar to Bourbon County. I think that he was able to make Bourbon County a little bit better than we had it at Harrison County at the time. As a kid, I never really understood that we were good. I just knew that if we didn't win, then something was wrong. I also didn't know, you know, how hard Mr. Hale worked. We all just saw him as this genius that had all the answers. And you could ask him anything and he would know exactly what's going on. Or when he was teaching I could never remember learning the show. We just knew it all of a sudden. And he worked magic like that. And so when I got older and I went back and I was a senior in college, and I started looking at who I wanted to student teach with, I knew I had to go to Bourbon County to student teach with him because I needed to find out exactly how he makes it happen. And the answer to that was just extremely hard work that never stops, and always having that standard in your head and communicating that very clearly with your students, your staff, your band parents, your school. And that is what led to his success. And that's what helped build up this band program to make it what it is. And I just try to remember that each day. And I'm like all the rest of you guys, we're band directors. We don't take a day off. They say that we get summers off, but here we are on summer break and we're learning how to be better band directors. So I just kind of go with it like that. Just moving on a little bit. So obviously COVID-19 has had a giant financial impact on band programs. And for most of us, the arts are poorly funded to begin with. So trying to move forward with this seems like a crazy daunting task. To me, I was talking to David last week, and I've been talking with some of the other people that are on this call here in Kentucky and outside of the state. And I'm really one of the people who's incredibly on the fence about things. For me, financially and logistically, I don't want to have marching band this year. I think it's going to be a nightmare, and I have no idea how we're going to make it happen. The teacher side of me wants this for my kids because I have 23 seniors this year, I believe, 22 rising seniors. And they've been with me since they were in 7th grade when I first came to Bourbon County. And they are like my literal children. Like every day that we've been out of school, I've talked to at least 4 of them every day. And so me thinking about them not being able to have their senior year of marching band, in all its glory, tears me apart. And so I really want to just talk about how we're going to try to make that happen, or what we normally do and how we may modify it to make it happen for these kids in the event that we do have a season. So we do a lot of fundraising. If you are part of the Paris Bourbon County community, and you see one of the band kids and they don't have some sort of packet or whatever for a fundraiser, there's something wrong, because we always have fundraisers going on. So we usually do about 2 restaurant fundraisers every month. And so in April and May, we were scheduled to have 4 restaurant nights. And that's just, one of those times where a restaurant will say, oh, it's the band night, and so we'll get a proceed of everything that they sell for that night. We usually make about $500 off of each one of those nights. They only last for a couple of hours. They don't give us the whole night, just a window of it. And so we've lost about $2,000 just off of those restaurant nights. We were also supposed to they were having a Land Rover event here at the Kentucky Horse Park. And we were going to park cars during that event. And it was going to be a 3-day long event. And we were going to get anywhere between $3,500 to $4,000 for that event, based off how many people we had to sign up to work that event, because they paid hourly. And so and then of course we also do the Festival of the Bluegrass, which is just a bluegrass music festival that they also have at the horse park. We work the parking gate, we work the gates entering to the concert area. We do just about everything for that event. And that lasts 2 days, 2.5 days really. And we make about $4,000 off of that in a weekend. So looking at what we've lost, just based off of those fundraisers, we've lost $10,000 in revenue. And we also do little fundraisers here and there, just because, you got to make as much money as possible. And so really the number is probably closer to around $13,000, but this was just off of our big fundraisers that we would have. So how do we make up for that, really? Funding wise, this is the part that always gets everybody. We have a very an incredibly award-winning program. Without putting down other programs within our school, we do have the most competitively successful program in the school system. The football team is the closest thing, really, that has won state one time back in 1997. The track team, like I said, the track team and cross country team, they're very competitive. They always have events go to state, but it's a different type of competition with that as well. And so with us and we're also, of course, the largest organization in the school system. And so people would think, oh, well, the band is so good over at Bourbon County, they must love you guys. Well, yeah, I think they do love us, but they don't fund us. And so we have here in Kentucky, I don't know what it's like in other states. We have site-based decision-making councils, which is just SBDM that you see over here. And the site-based council, I actually serve on the site-based council for our school. Each school has their own. And they're responsible for distributing funds to programs within the school. So, and then of course the local school board, they can also distribute funds. So for us, the school board does not give us any money whatsoever. They do, however, provide for most of our busing. So each year, around the end of the year, I'll get a bill in an email that just says, this is what you were allotted, which it changes every year, or sometimes the board will vote to pay for more than we're allotted, which is always what we prefer, and what we appreciate. And then they'll pay for some of that busing, and then the band boosters will have to pay for the rest of it. Last year, I got $262 from the site-based council to run the band and choir program. I'm also the choir director at the school. And so I run around like a chicken with my head cut off a lot of the times trying to run both programs. But $262 to run both the band and the choir program. This coming year, I was allotted $265. So that $3 that I got is going to go real, real far. That'll buy me one clarinet reed, maybe if the prices don't go up. And so we don't really get too much from our school system to run the program. I don't get any money for instructors. I have a stipend, and our assistant band director, which our assistant band director is actually the middle school band director, but he is the assistant for marching band. And we both get stipends that are tied into our salary. So we got pretty lucky. I don't know what other states have done, but in Kentucky, I know that a lot of people have lost their stipends for the coming year. If we do have a marching season, most of those people are going to receive their stipend. But if we don't, then a lot of those people just aren't, and they're out that money. Luckily, ours are woven into our contract through extended days. Excuse me. And our stipends were not touched. But as far as other instructors go, we don't get anything. And then on the rare occasion, the school board will purchase an instrument for us. I remember when I first got to Bourbon County at the middle school, and the low brass instruments were in terrible shape. The tubas, we had all of the tubas we had were those little 3/4 size Yamaha beginner tubas, which are great for beginners. And they don't do bad for 7th grade. But by the time the kids are in 8th grade, I really wanted them playing on full-size tubas, especially if they were part of the marching band, because I know they can get the sound through it. If they can blow through a sousaphone and create a sound, they can play a tuba. And so I went down and I asked for some instruments, and I just got told no, period. And told me to go ask my site-based council. And so I went and asked my principal about it, and he talked to the site-based, and they agreed to buy one tuba if we bought one. And so we kicked our butts fundraising that spring, and the band bought one tuba, and the school bought one tuba to help us out. Since then, we haven't really gotten anything up until this past spring. Usually the school board will pay for, if we are lucky enough to win a state championship, or we're lucky enough to win a national championship, we'll get rings for the kids. And so if we win state, the school board will pay for those for the new members. And then old members are just expected to purchase their own after their first one. Then this year, we did not win a state championship, but we did win the Class A national championship. So the school board did not buy our rings for us, but they did say that because there's so many different national championships for other events. And so with band, we pretty much have one. Grand Nationals is the national championship. We have some other little ones, but Grand Nationals is the real one. And so they just didn't want to open up a can of worms with other activities, so they said that they would not purchase national championship rings for our students this year. But what they did say is that they would get something educational for the band in lieu of that. So we were able to purchase 4 new concert tubas and a bass trombone instead of getting rings. Just pay off more so than a ring. Now the band boosters, I could not do my job without my band boosters. My booster president, she is awesome. She's known me since her kid was in 6th grade. And her daughter is about to be a senior now. So we've been together for 7 years coming up. And she has learned to read my mind so well. She's been our president. This will be her 3rd year as our president. And I just cannot imagine doing this job without her. Our treasurer is just as phenomenal. She always keeps my head straight when it comes to the numbers. If I need a check for anything, She will get it to me that day. There's no waiting around. The boosters are awesome. And honestly, they organize just about everything for me so that I can just focus on teaching their kids. So annually, our boosters raise about $130,000 to make marching band happen. Everybody thinks it's crazy that we spend $130,000 on marching band every year. And I'm just like, y'all, we're doing it on the cheap end. You look at the big programs in the country, and I have no idea how they spend what they spend. I wish that I could understand how to get that kind of funding. So we raise, like I said, about $130,000. We do that through, our biggest thing is we host 2 competitions per season. We will host one we always host the first weekend out, or in Kentucky for KMEA, our competition season starts the weekend after Labor Day. So we're always on that first week. And then I also, a couple of years ago, got with the Mid-States Band Association folks, and we started hosting a Mid-States competition as well. And so that helps us raise a ton of money right there at the beginning of the season. Usually we'll do the Mid-State competition a few weeks after our KMEA show or in October. For instructors, last year we spent about 20 grand on instructors, which the boosters thought was crazy. And I'm just like, y'all, in some band programs, that's one instructor. And so it's really crazy to imagine or to kind of educate how we do that. When Eric was the band director, we had a very limited amount of staff. And we still do. But it's just, we have a little bit more now that the band has grown more. More kids, we need more eyes on them. So we have a few more staff, so it's getting difficult to get that going. But the band boosters also pay, once the students pay their band fees, they don't pay for much else. So the band boosters also pay for hotel costs, any instrument repairs, equipment purchases that we have. We have a private lessons program that the band boosters fund halfway. It's worked into the band fees that the students will pay $50 for private lessons, and then the band boosters will pick up another $50. So each kid gets 5 private lessons out of that. And then the band boosters pay for props. And my God, you all know how marching band has changed. You can barely have a show without a million props out there on the field. And so we spend an outrageous amount of money on props, in my opinion, but we do it because we know we have to. They pay those Bands of America registrations fees, which BOA is pricey. Don't get me wrong, but it's well worth it because we know exactly what we're going to show up for, and we know what kind of quality experience we're going to get. And so they pay for all those registration fees. They pay for concert band assessment fees. A lot of times they pay for concert band music. I have some school money in an activity account that I'll try to buy music with, but we can't do fundraiser on top of fundraiser. We can't be selling stuff for marching band, but also at the same time selling stuff for concert band. So all of our money just goes to band, period. And in Bourbon County, we just have band. We don't have marching band. We don't have concert band. We just have band. If you're in band, you're in band. And then we also host an honor band, which a couple people on this call have conducted that honor band before. And we just, it's the most chill day that I can possibly imagine. For everybody participating, I don't know about the conductors. It may be stressful for them. But we just get together on a Saturday. We invite some folks from around the area. I distribute audition music around October. We have an audition in November, results in December, honor band in January. It's one day. Get there at 9 o'clock, rehearse for like 6 hours with lunch in between there, and then have a concert that night. And so the band boosters pay for all that. And really the only cost that we have for it is paying the conductors, buying music, paying for lunch, and getting t-shirts for the kids to wear for the concert. And so that was a really easy fundraiser that we do. That is just a ton of fun also. So what do we have to do here to make this happen? actually, before I move on, does anyone have anything?
I think we're good.
All right, awesome. I just wanted to double check. So we have to be really creative, and we have to be incredibly cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Now is not, Brittany Froge agrees with me. Now is not the time to have bougie band. Now's the time to have dirt poor band, and let's see how we can make it happen. If you come to Bourbon County, if you see us perform, we look great from far away. Do not get right up on us because it'll spook you. Most of our instruments are held together with duct tape. Our uniforms are a few years old. We got them from DeMoulin. They held up really well. Some of the pieces of our uniforms, though, like our pants, they're a little bit older. Our shoes, we keep a stockpile of shoes because we have so many low-income families in our band program. And so every year, we just collect the shoes at the end of the year. And then we just redistribute them to the kids during band camp when they're sizing for uniforms. So last year, we reached the end of our shoe life. We had several kids that marched out of their shoes at contests because they just weren't holding together anymore. I had one kid at Grand Nationals, he was duct taped into his shoes because they just were about to fall apart. The sole came completely off of it. And he was just going to march without the sole on there, but we were in warm-up, and one of the moms pulled out some black duct tape and just taped it to his leg so that it would not come off during the show. And then we had to listen to him scream out in the parking lot when it was 20 degrees when they were peeling the duct tape off of his hairy leg. And so you just have to be incredibly creative. Unfortunately, we did reach the end of our shoe life. So now I'm going to have to tell the kids, hey, you got to spend $35 on a new pair of shoes. And we're just going to do that for everybody so we can restart our stockpile. And it's just little things like that. Can you make your props not as prominent? I have some stuff here. So like I said, use as few musical selections in your arrangements as you possibly can, because we know how expensive copyright fees are. It's ridiculous to me. It's like gouging the band programs. I don't know if anybody is like affiliated with any of the copyright folks, and I'm sorry if you are, but it's crazy to me that we have to pay this much, and then we still don't really even get videos at the end of all of it. I could understand if we were producing videos and someone's making money off of it, but no one is anymore because they're so afraid of copyright laws. So why are we paying so much for music? So I always try to use as few songs as possible and as much public domain as possible. I know that we have a lot of great concert band works out there. We have a lot of great pop songs on the radio that people are starting to intertwine into their marching band shows. I think we just have to be really smart about how we're doing that, because we can't have a show based off of complete Disney music, most of us, because it's so daggone expensive. We just got to be really careful about how we're spending our money. Like I was saying before, don't go all out on props this year. The face of marching band has changed to where you do have to have everything in the kitchen sink out there. To me, it's only changed to that because we let it change to that. I think that we really need to kind of reel back in what marching band is really about. And we know that it's about making music and performing. And so that's what we should focus on. I don't think you have to have 85 props out there on the field that are all mobile and that are all changing colors constantly or lighting up, whatever. That doesn't need to happen this year. We've got to focus on what we can do and do that just really well. If it's at all possible, don't do a ton of custom costuming. I hate to say that because this is a DeMoulin sponsored event and I want DeMoulin to get business. If you can possibly do some sort of stock costuming for this year, minimize the design on your costuming so that it won't cost as much. I do still want you guys to, to help these businesses stay in business, because at the end of the day, we are the ones that keep them going. And to me, band is really like a family, and you don't just shut out your family. And so try your hardest to do as little customizing to costuming as possible for this year. If you can limit the number of flag changes for the color guard during your show, that will save you a ton of money. You all know this, obviously, but I mean, I spend thousands and thousands of dollars just on flags. I mean, last year I spent $1,500 just on our closer flags, and we only used a flag in the closer for the last 30 seconds of the show. And so it's like I spent about $20 per second, or I think that's right. Yeah, $20 per second just for that one flag. Now, did it pay off in the end? Yeah. But if we can minimize that type of spending, then that's going to be something that's really going to help us out. David and I talked about this one last week, but reduce, reuse, and recycle. Whatever you can do that you've already done, or whatever you can use that you've already done, do it again. If you have a color guard costume that's boxed up in the back room that worked for a show 4, 5, 6 years ago, no one remembers it. You can reuse that costume. Same with flags. You can reuse those flags. I did the same thing with musical arrangements this year, just for a time's sake. There was some stuff that we played 12 years ago, before I was even the band director, when I was still in high school. And I just ripped it right out. Of course, I called Eric and talked to him about it, but we just straight up ripped it. And we're going to use that for this year. And there's a lot of different stuff. I mean, even, drum corps arrangements of things. You can either buy, your scores from drum corps pretty cheap and just arrange it for your band yourself, or go on MuseScore. There are tons of kids that get on MuseScore, and they're this close to what it really needs to be. And you just have to tweak a few things here and there, and it changes everything. It saves you a lot of time, and it saves you the hassle of sitting there for hours and hours staring at a computer screen. If you're like me, I'm a perfectionist. So the first time I write something, it has to sound like something, or else I scrap it. And so I'll sit there for hours on end, just staring at this computer screen, just trying to get out 30 seconds of a song, because it just doesn't sound like anything to me. And so if you can do that, then do it. And same thing goes with props. I know all of us probably have some sort of storage facility where we keep our props. I am lucky. We have a whole warehouse full of school equipment, and the band gets a large area of that warehouse. So I have props down there that are 10 years old. And every spring I go down there and I just kind of look after we figure out what the show's about. I just go down there and I look, I'm like, all right, what can we use that we've used in the past, and just slap a new coat of paint on it. And so we try to do that as much as possible. I would really implore you guys to do the same. I don't think we need to be as elaborate as we normally are for this coming year. Obviously travel less, because we may have to consider, I don't know what other states are doing, but I know in Kentucky, they have mentioned them doing social distance busing, which would, I think they've done that pretty much nationwide. I think the CDC has said that should be what we do. To be quite honest with you, I've been trying to ignore as much as possible the last few weeks about what's going on, because it's just gotten to be too depressing. But with that said, we still have to stay, educated on everything and up to date. So with social distance busing, I know that they've talked about, 1 student per seat every other row. So for us, we're allowed 40 students on a bus when we're going out of town. And so cut that in half, about 20 students on a bus. Then we have 120 about in the band. So that means we're going to have to take 6 buses as opposed to the 3 that we normally take. Excuse me. And, even though my school board is really good about paying for busing, I doubt they're going to do it with double the busing. I also don't know if we're going to be able to find drivers for 6 buses every weekend. We do go out every weekend. To me, the thing that kids love about marching band the most is that they get to perform all the time. And so that we go out every weekend just so they can be in different places, meet new people, perform, have fun, get different feedback from different people. And we may have to reconsider that for this coming year. We may have to take some weeks off during the season. Um, I really don't know until they give us some answers on it. But preparing for the future, I have to know this is a big possibility, and I have to think about that when I'm planning our travel. It may mean that I have to cut out a BOA regional. It may mean that we have to cut out Grand Nationals. It may mean that we have to cut out going to local contests. I don't know what it's going to mean until we get some solid answers, honestly. But that is one of our options. As much as possible, consolidate your band staff. So like I said, we had a pretty small band staff when before I took over as head director. In the years that I worked with the band, I was the whole brass staff. And we maybe had one other woodwind person and a percussion person. So this year, I've just tried to really limit that. So we're going to have a high brass tech, we're going to have a low brass tech, and they're going to be in charge of both music and visual stuff. We can't have different people doing different things. We just can't afford it right now. We're going to have the same with the woodwinds, upper woodwind tech and a low woodwind tech, or a saxophone tech. And then we'll have one person for the battery, or two, maybe. And then we'll have one person for the pit or front ensemble. And then I'll have one guard staff member, because we just I can't pay everybody. And so we're going to have to really consolidate that. And I've had that tough conversation with some people, like, hey, I love you. I know that we talked about this, but with all this going on, I just told them first in, first out as far as that goes. That may be a cruel way of doing it, but I also stay loyal to our people. Like I said, band is family to me. And I can't harp on that enough, that band is family. And so if someone's been in the family and they're doing their part well, I can't kick them out of the family to make room for this new family member that I am really rolling the dice on. So I'm keeping the people that I know I can really count on, and the people that we may have brought on as extras this year, that's probably not going to happen. There are tons of online fundraisers out there right now. We're doing one with Rata Cutlery, and I swear it's selling like hotcakes. Like in the first 3 days that we put it up, we made like $1,300, which is great. It's not a ton of money, but it's more than we had before. And all people have to do, go on the online store, click their thing, and then it comes to their house. So I think we're really trying to do a really great job of being creative about how we fundraise during this time where we can't go door to door, talk to people, where we can't give the kids a brochure to take around. We just got to do what we can. And then, of course, the last thing is don't be too proud to beg. Our band is growing in some areas this year. So this is going to be the largest mellophone section that we've ever had. Typically, the most that we've ever had was 5. And so we have 5 mellophones. This year, I'm going to have 7. And so I need 2 more mellophones. That's about $3,000. Our bass clarinet section is also growing. So I need a new bass clarinet. So really, altogether, it's about $5,000 that I had to raise real quick. I just put up a GoFundMe, and I've been sharing it every day. I'm begging people to donate money to help us get these instruments so that the band boosters don't have to bite that bullet, that we can use the funds that we have to go towards all the other stuff that we have to do. I don't really know how to do that too much more, but I know that, you can also, I don't have this on here, but you can reach out to your local businesses if they're still able to survive. I know that we have a dealership in town, Dan Cummins Chevrolet. they have been very good to us over the past few years. They've donated a large chunk of money to the band each year, and last year they actually bought us a new trailer to haul our equipment in, and it's great. It's like a 56-foot long trailer, and basically it is like going on Pimp My Ride, but for band trailers. And we got everything that we wanted out of that trailer and more, and I can't be more grateful for that. I doubt that's a thing that can happen this year. I don't think that we're going to get another 40 grand trailer this year, but I bet if you reach out to your local people, they'll be willing to do what they can to help out your band program. We just have to, we offer sponsorships so that people can at least get their business name put on the side of the trailer for the year, or on t-shirts when we have our honor band, or at the concession stand, because we also run the concessions for football games if we have football. And so we try to get creative, so that we can get more of the local buy-in, and so that we can help out those local business by displaying what they do. Anybody have anything?
I think we're good. We have about probably about 6 minutes left, Michael. So you want to wrap up, and then we can ask for anyone that has specific questions at the very end.
Yeah, cool. So one thing that you need to remember going into this, one thing that we all have to remember, is that we got to plan for the future too. You know, band directors, we're over planners, we're control freaks, all of us. I don't know a single one of us that is not. And so we've got to really remember that even though we're focusing on getting this year going, we've got to save some room for the next year. Maybe you have a big thing coming up. Maybe like your band is going to the Rose Bowl. Maybe they're going to Macy's. Maybe they're playing at Midwest. Maybe they're playing at your state convention. Maybe you're going to Disney World in a year. Maybe you're taking a trip overseas. How are you going to plan for those things? And for that, I can't really answer. What I know that I'm doing, I have some big things that I want our band program to participate in coming up. And so what I'm trying to do, without giving out too much information to the parents, without doing it to the students, is that, you know, each fundraiser that we do, I tell them set aside a little bit more and put it away. Let's not touch that. Take a little bit of this and let's save it for a rainy day. And I don't like to do that often, because I'm a very big believer in spend the money that you have on the kids that raised it while they're in the band. I don't like sitting on a giant pile of money at the end of every year. And so I like to spend my money on my kids. This has been different for me because I know that I need to prepare for these things that I want to do coming up. So as we're going through that, it's difficult to just put things away and not really touch it at all. But I do think that's what we can do to plan for the future. And that way we can offset a little bit of the struggle coming up for the coming years. Because if we don't plan for it now, then we're going to be in trouble when it gets here. One big thing that we've got to remember is that this picture that you see, this is what it's about. My proudest moments are when I get to see my kids perform. I am stressed all out until they get on the field and I turn it over to them. Because once they get on the field, you know, it's out of our control. And then we get to see what they can actually do. We manipulate them, we teach them, we trick them, we do all the things that educators do to get them to reach these high levels of performance. And I love. My favorite time is at Grand Nationals the past 2 years, their class exhibition performances, because they just go out there and it's just such a great payoff at the end of the season. They go out, they perform for the biggest crowd that you can in marching band, and they just lay it down, and it's great to see them have fun. There are so many hilarious pictures of their exhibition performances at Grand Nationals, just because they go, the color guard especially, go all out with the facial expressions. The kids, they have vocals that they've added to different parts of the show. You can hear them on the videos just screaming those vocals while they perform. Just because you know where it is. In the crowd, you can't hear it. But I just sit there and I just love every second of watching them perform. And we've got to remember that that is what it's about. Letting our kids perform, getting to see them do what they love, and just being great at it. And so I think we just need to remember that going forward. This is a time where we can't let the band director ego get in the way. We have to focus on the kids being able to perform and the kids being able to do what we can provide for them. And then the last thing that I have really, I say this all the time. This is a competitive activity. I don't know anybody that enters a competition and doesn't want to be competitive in that competition. And the thing that we've got to remember, the most important thing is that we always have our best performance. I tell that to my kids, at state finals this year in Kentucky, we didn't have our best performance. It was actually one of our worst all season, and they didn't win. They were all tore up about it, but I just asked them, I was like, did you do your best? And they said, no. I said, well, then you can't be upset about the results. And I have to tell myself that as well. And then, they go into Grand Nationals and they have their best performances. It's amazing to see. And so I feel like we should be really conservative in the efforts that we're putting forward to make that excellence achievable. I don't think, like I said, I don't think we have to put everything in the kitchen sink out there this year. I think this is a year where we can cool it on all the theatrics and we can just have band and get to see our students perform. Because if we focus too much on the other stuff, trying to get those effect points, then we're going to dig ourselves into a hole. I think we really need to focus on music and visual performance, and the effect will come. Obviously, still design those things into your show, but let's do what we can to make this awesome. And that's all I've got for everybody.
Well, Michael, we really appreciate your time with us today and your preparation. This has just been great. And I think if nothing else, it just keeps all of us kind of focused on what we could be dealing with in the days upcoming. It will be a very challenging time. And I think you've given us some things to think about, the recycling stuff. I think that keeping your eye on the ball, that it's still about the students, and maybe challenging yourself to make it about the students as far as the teaching opportunities that you have that maybe you haven't had in years past, because obviously the challenges are going to be different. We want the results to be the same, but with a lot of restrictions probably that are about to be placed on us. So I just thought you did a fantastic job with presenting all that. Doug, are you up and running over there now?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Yes. Well, thank you. I just wanted to say thanks to Michael and appreciate his time and taking part in this virtual symposium, and had lots of great things to say. I also wanted to say that, Michael, I want you to know that I have a new shoe that we can talk about. And also, DeMolin is not offended by any way, because we have a huge selection of in-stock costumes. Good. So thanks for that promo that you didn't even know you were putting out there.
Perfect.
Take care.
Well, everyone, if you want to take yourself off of Mike or the mute, and thank Michael personally, I'm sure he would love to hear your voice and your appreciation. And if you would just sign the chat room before you leave to let us know, where you're from and the school in which you teach, that would be fantastic. We would love to keep that information. Steve, thanks again for your support of this. It really means a lot to all of us. And we hope we'll continue this partnership down the road.
Thank all of you for being here. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. Thank everybody for coming.
Best of luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. It was great.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Really well done. Yeah, a lot of good information.
I don't know if I helped anybody out or if I just.
Oh no, it very much so. It's just one of those things where it gives us pause to think about the obvious, the things that we forget about sometimes. And the music and the visual stuff that we were talking about last week, it's just like, I'm even thinking like, nobody's going to remember that show from 5 years ago. I only know that flag was out there. Nobody else will. But you're going to know when you can't find $5,000 or $6,000 to buy a set of flags. So I think that's just great information, stuff well taken.
I
So
think hopefully everybody can at least take something away from it. You know, 'cause at the end of the day, like I said, I just want to see the kids be able to perform if that's what we're doing.
absolutely. And that's my fear right now, that we're not going to get that. That's my greatest fear right now with just all the restrictions that are being placed. And I'm hearing more and more school districts are going to go online for the fall, and there won't be like any sports or marching band.
I keep waiting to hear that too. I know Fayette County here in Kentucky, they're supposedly sometime this week, beginning of next week, they're going to let the band directors know what they can do.
Wow.
And I know whatever Fayette County does usually drives the rest of Kentucky.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm excited and nervous to hear what happens with that.
Yeah, me too. Well, thanks again. If there's anything I could ever do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to get back to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Let me know if there's anything you need from me too.
Okay, buddy. Thanks so much.
See ya.
Take care. All right, we'll see you. Bye-bye.